On the docket today is the Cowboy Candy onion jam to do, and I've got to cut up the onions, which is not a problem. Everything for the red pepper spread has already been oven roasted, and then everything's already cut up for the Canadian pineapple, and that's the easiest recipe. If you're looking for a super easy recipe to start off with water bath canning, this one is definitely one for the books. For the red pepper spread, I threw all of these guys into the oven, as well as some onions and some garlic. You can see smushed up right here. And I did 3 batches. I'm just gonna throw a tea towel on this and I will process it in the morning, but my house smells amazing. I'm just about to start the Cowboy Candy, and I did 3 times the amount of brine that I need for the Cowboy Candy. The reasoning behind this is because I like the brine so much. I was thinking, I'm in this whole dehydrating kick mode, and I thought, well, what can I do with the brine? A girl, Selena Ainsworth, I think her last name is, and she's up in Alaska, and their whole off-the-grid town, I think she lives in. Anyways, it's named after her last name because her grandparents created a homestead there. So I guess that's how the town started. And they did this huge smoke with salmon. So I thought, well, I don't have a smokehouse, but I have a dehydrator. How cool would it be if I thinly sliced chicken breast and had that Cowboy Candy brine as a marinade? I think it would be really cool. That's what I'm gonna do with the leftover brine. Now, with the amount of jalapenos that I have and this brine, I don't have a pot big enough, so I'm whipping out Big Mama. In goes the brine. Now I just need to get that up to a boil, which won't take long because it's only, I guess it's like, vinegar. It's only about an inch deep, which is fine. And I'm just scooping out every last little morsel out of there. So I'm gonna wait for that to come up to boil. And then all I have to do is add in my jalapenos. If you're worried that you don't have enough brine for the amount of jalapenos, they do shrink quite a bit. So I'm just gonna cover these, wait till they come up to a boil. Just be careful when you're opening this up. You are dealing with hot peppers. Now, mind you, they're not the hottest pepper. They're not like a ghost pepper or habanero. They've still got a kick to them. So when you're opening it, the vapors do still contain a bit of that kick. While you're waiting for this to boil, it's just stir it every maybe 4 to 5 minutes just to help the jalapenos get coated in that brine so that it helps them shrink a lot faster. Now, what I'm doing here is I've got a ladle and it has a bunch of holes in it because what I'm doing first, as annoying as this is, trust me, you'll thank me later, because these jalapenos really, really shrink down in size. And when I did this the first time, I had so much liquid in here, I basically wasted a ton of brine. Now you don't want to squish the living daylights out of them, but leave about an inch space between, ½ inch to an inch space between the top of your jalapenos and the top of your jar. And then what you're going to do is you're going to grab a ladle and you're going to go and grab your brine and you're going to fill up your jar. And you're going to see all those bubbles rise up to the top. And you're going to leave a 1/4 inch head space at the top of your jar. Now, if one of your jalapenos comes along with you with the brine, that's not a problem. It's okay. And that is how you're gonna fill up each jar. And you're gonna be very surprised with how far the jalapenos go, because this, if you were just gonna pour them in after canning, what you would end up with is a jar with that's only half full of jalapenos. It wouldn't have anything else except half brine, half jalapenos. And the whole point of this is to have candied jalapenos. So that's the way that you get around that. And then what you're gonna do is you're gonna wipe the rim with some vinegar like you would always do. Grab a lid, grab a rim, and you're off to the races. And then I'm just gonna check. Ooh, I'm quite short. I still need more brine, hang on. Okay, I think that should do it. And let me check. And yep, perfect, right on the nose. All right, and because I did go in again, I'm gonna wipe it again, just in case, because you never know. And if you're going through all this effort, you might as well do it properly or not bother at all. Okay, I've got my lid, got my ring, finger tight, and look how jammed that is. That is perfect. The onion jam, oh my gosh, I'm not gonna lie. It's so good. For this next recipe, I cannot say enough good things about it. It's onion jam. And you would think onion jam, it's gotta be gross, right? Absolutely not. I got the original recipe for this from Simple Living Alaska, which is a YouTube channel that I follow. We went from a family that hated onions and I would always have to hide them to I now have to ration off our onion jam because of how amazing it turned out. The other thing that I love about this recipe is you can easily swap things for other things as long as you kind of stay within the same family of things. So for example, this recipe calls for balsamic vinegar. I didn't have any balsamic vinegar on hand, but because I love going to different shops and seeing what they've got as far as like oils and vinegars and spices and stuff, I actually picked up a maple balsamic vinegar and I use that in this recipe. Oh, I cannot wait to show you guys what I have stored for next year that I'm going to be swapping out again to replace the maple balsamic vinegar. It is, I am so excited. So that's how you can really change this to swap out for what you have. As long as you stay with a balsamic vinegar, you're fine. The other nice thing is it calls for a cup of just regular vinegar. Ariel really likes white wine vinegar, and I'm totally on the white wine vinegar train too with her. That is by far my favorite vinegar to use as far as cooking. It just gives it such a light flavor and it doesn't weigh stuff down and it doesn't overpower. So I also did that as well. And it calls for 3/4 cup of honey. I didn't have enough honey on hand, so I actually replaced it with maple syrup because I figured, well, I need a sweetener. I'm already doing the maple balsamic vinegar. Why not throw in some extra maple syrup since I don't have any honey? Best thing I've ever done. And like I said, I'll put my version of the recipe down below and then you can go over to her channel or her and Eric's channel and check out the original recipe that they did. But oh my gosh, it is just absolutely fantastic. You can also put this on anything, burgers, use it as a condiment. I put it on top of pizza. Trust me, you'll thank me once you make it. Onions have been sauteing for 30 minutes on, I did have it at high and I did have it at 3 different spots on the stove. And then as they shrunk and became brown, I started combining them all. So now they're in one pot and they'll eventually get brown. So if you're wondering if this is a fast process, it's not. It's not whatsoever. I'm scooping every last little morsel out. And now I just cook for another 15 minutes. So I'm going to turn up the heat. And after 15 minutes, we're ready to put them into cans. I need 1/2 inch. I'm taking the pepper leaves, or sorry, the pepper skin that I peeled off all those peppers, and they are still quite sticky. I actually didn't think that they'd be that sticky, but I'm putting them out on parchment paper because I want to see if I can make a powder out of this, like I did with the tomatoes that I dehydrated. And I feel like there still is a lot of flavor in this skin. So this is a complete experiment. I'm gonna see if it works out. And that way, aside from losing the seeds, I'll have zero waste, or almost zero waste. This recipe is from the Bernardin recipe book, and I did make a couple of tweaks to it. So I will list the exact recipe that I did as far as what I made changes to, but I didn't make a whole lot of changes. All I did was I with the garlic cloves, I doubled it, that and also the small white onion. And instead of red wine vinegar, I used white wine vinegar. And then with the basil, I just doubled it because I find it very hard to measure out herbs. And with that, I doubled it. So I always go a little bit over on the herbs. I never find it's gotten me into trouble. And I actually omitted the salt completely. It just asks for a teaspoon. I ended up scrapping it. And this is definitely my favorite recipe that I've made so far out of this entire book. Now, with that said, peeling the skin off the peppers once you've roasted them and de-seeding them, oh my gosh, it took so much longer than I actually thought it would. So keep that in mind when you're doing this recipe. If you're getting that book, it's on page 282, that you do have to set aside significant time in order to do that. Now, I'm just wondering if the same machine that you use for like basically peeling and de-seeding tomatoes, I'm wondering if you could use these on these peppers. I don't have one of those items, but it's definitely on my wish list. But I'm wondering, and let me know if you guys have one, whether or not it would actually work on the peppers. What had ended up happening is I filled up all my jars, and then on my last jar, I had almost 3/4 of a jar left. And what I ended up doing with this is I ended up making a hummus and just pouring this kind of like on the one side. So as you're dipping in your hummus, you could get a little bit of this spread, and it came out so cool just to combine those two recipes. And I also ended up making a secondary batch of this, but I put in a lot more tomatoes than the red peppers. And I kind of made almost like a spaghetti sauce or tomato sauce with the red peppers. And it came out absolutely wonderful. And what I'm planning on using these for is not quite much a spread, but when I'm seriously in a pinch and all I can make is some noodles, I'm going to actually use this instead of using a traditional tomato-based spaghetti sauce. I'm going to be using this as an actual sauce, like a pasta sauce. I tend to do this a lot with recipes that, in this case, it's called roasted red pepper spread. Well, is that the only use for this? No way. Like, you can use this as a topper, say like I did with the hummus. You could put it over a cheese spread. A lot of people put, like a jalapeno apricot jelly over cream cheese. Well, you could easily do this as well. You could mix it with feta and make like a really cream Greek style pasta sauce. There are so many things that you can do with this so-called quote unquote spread that I'm just so looking forward to it. And I'm so happy that you guys are coming along on the journey with me. I know what you guys are thinking. I was thinking the same thing. Canadian pineapple? What on earth is this? It's zucchini, believe it or not. It's such a fun recipe to do. I had so much fun making it and I wish I could have made more. What you're gonna do is you're gonna take a zucchini that's 2, 3, 4 feet long, those big massive ones that people just seem to do zucchini bread and zucchini boats with them a lot of the time. Well, you're now gonna make Canadian pineapple. All you need is a big honkin' zucchini or yellow squash. And what you're gonna do is you're gonna peel off all the skin, you're gonna cut it in half and scoop out all the seeds. Then you're gonna take that zucchini and you're gonna cut it into small pieces about the size of pineapple chunks. Then you're gonna set it off into the bowl and go grab your jars. You're gonna put 1 tablespoon of lemon juice into each jar, and I will put the recipe below on how to make this. And then the recipe does call for 1 tablespoon of sugar, but I halved that and it came out completely fine. Now, to make sure that you have as much pineapple or zucchini as you can in the jar, just give it a little shake just to settle everything in its place. Then you're just gonna fill up the jar, leaving a 1/4 inch headspace with unsweetened pineapple juice straight out of the can. That's it. And then you're gonna wipe the rim, put the lid and the ring on, and that's everything. It couldn't be easier. You're gonna water bath for 25 minutes, and if you're using a 1 liter jar, you're gonna water bath it for 30 minutes. Now, keep in mind, these times are only if you're at 0 feet above sea level. Now, I did 3 large zucchinis. They're about 2.5 feet long, and I made 14 pints. Have fun with this recipe. It is so good. We put it on our salad. I actually mixed this into our rice because I made kind of like a Hawaiian style rice. And the juice from this, it doesn't taste like zucchini at all. It just tastes like regular pineapple. So what I end up doing for the kids is if I'm opening up one of these jars, I'll use this like Canadian pineapple for my recipe, but then the juice, I'll put it into cups and I dilute it 50-50 with water, and my kids think it's such a great treat and awesome juice. So have fun with this and let me know if you tried any of these recipes. I would love to know if you tried them, what you thought of them, how you're going to use them. And thank you for subscribing to my channel, and I can't wait to see you again soon. Bye guys.